There's a strange kind of freedom that appears the moment you stop trying to please the world. It doesn't arrive with noise or applause. It slips in quietly, like a breath you didn't know you were holding. Suddenly released. Think about how much of your life has been shaped by invisible expectations. From the moment we could walk, someone was already telling us where to go. We chase approval like oxygen, the right grades, the right career, the right face in the mirror, the right number of likes. And yet, after all that effort, we still feel the quiet ache of disconnection, the sense that somehow, we're living everyone's life but our own. Buddhism calls this suffering dukkha, the friction between what is real and what we demand reality to be. When your mind is constantly tuned to the opinions of others, it forgets its natural rhythm. You begin to mistake performance for purpose, comparison for connection, and the price you pay is presence. The Buddha once said, "Peace comes from within, do not seek it without." It sounds simple, almost too simple, but it's one of the most radical truths ever spoken. Because to live it means to stop outsourcing your work. It means to walk away from the world's scoreboard and build your own compass instead. The freedom the Buddha spoke of isn't rebellion. It's alignment. It's not about isolating yourself from people. It's about returning to yourself so completely that other people no longer define your peace. This is not selfishness, it's sanity. You cannot give compassion to the world if you are constantly bleeding approval. You cannot love clearly if your own reflection depends on someone else's mirror. In this episode of Dharma Veins, we'll explore how to focus on yourself, not through ego, but through understanding and compassion. We'll look at why self-focus is the foundation of emotional clarity, why mindfulness is not self-obsession but self-liberation, and why sometimes the most generous thing you can do for others is to heal your own mind first. Because there's a profound difference between being alone and being with yourself. One is emptiness, the other is intimacy. And when you begin to know your own heart, to truly listen to it without the noise of comparison, you start to see life differently. Suddenly, you stop asking, "Am I enough?" and start realizing, "I already am." So take a breath. Put down the weight of other people's opinions, just for these few minutes. In the quiet space between one inhale and one exhale, you'll find what the Buddha found under the Bodhi tree, not escape from the world, but a way to live in it freely. Welcome to Dharma Veins, where we don't run from the world. We learn how to walk through it with an untangled heart. 1. The deep mirror within. Every genuine journey toward liberation begins not in the mountains, not in monasteries, but in the quiet, private act of turning the mind inward. The Buddha called this sati, mindfulness, the art of knowing what's happening within you as it happens. Without running, without clinging, without judging. Most people can read others with ease. We sense their moods, their likes and dislikes, their pain, yet we remain strangers to ourselves. We know what upsets us, but not why. We can describe our fears, but not the ancient roots that feed them. That's why the Buddha's path begins not with belief, but with observation, the radical honesty of looking directly at one's own mind. When Siddhartha Gautama sat beneath the Bodhi tree, he wasn't seeking divine revelation. He was studying the machinery of suffering. He watched the mind as it grasped, feared, desired, compared, and he saw something astonishing. None of it was fixed. Each emotion, each thought, each identity arose due to causes and conditions. Paticca samuppada, dependent origination. Anger appeared when pride was touched. Pride appeared when insecurity stirred. Insecurity appeared when craving for approval was born. This is karma not as superstition, but as inner physics, a chain of mental habits repeating until they're seen clearly. That is the essence of yoniso manasikara, wise attention. When you trace irritation back to attachment, sadness back to resistance, fear back to craving control, you begin to glimpse the subtle architecture of your own suffering. And the moment you see the mechanism, it loses its power, because what is seen clearly no longer rules from the shadows. True self-understanding, then, is not about perfecting the self, it's about seeing through its illusion. The Buddha taught anatta, non-self. That what we call I is a process, not a possession. Thoughts arise, feelings shift, identities dissolve, just as waves appear and vanish on the same ocean. You don't have to destroy the ego. You only have to see that it was never solid to begin with. In modern language, this means realizing that your self is more like a story in motion. When you stop insisting that every thought or emotion defines you, you create space, the kind of space where peace can actually breathe. You start to notice that anger isn't my anger, it's a temporary weather pattern in consciousness. Anxiety isn't me, it's a cloud passing through the sky of awareness. So each evening, before sleep, try this. Write down just 2 questions. What moments felt like truth today? And, where did I abandon myself? You're not trying to be poetic. You're tracking karma in real time, the cause and effect inside your own consciousness. That's how awareness matures, through repetition, reflection, and gentle honesty. Over time, this practice becomes a mirror that no longer flatters or condemns. It simply reflects. And in that reflection, you realize something profound. The one who observes is not the one who suffers. The watcher, the awareness itself, is untouched, clear, open, timeless. That realization is the first taste of freedom. When you see yourself clearly, the need for others to define you evaporates. You no longer chase validation, you radiate understanding. And that is the beginning of true wisdom, not knowing more, but needing less. 2. Right intention, the compass of a free mind. It's astonishing how easily we confuse motion with direction. We spend years in constant activity, studying, working, pleasing, scrolling, yet feel quietly uncertain of where any of it leads. Most people don't suffer from a lack of effort, they suffer from misdirected effort. We run hard, but on someone else's path, chasing our parents' hopes, our friends' standards, society's applause. The Buddha called this the absence of samma sankappa, right intention. It means not just having goals, but understanding why we pursue them. Without that clarity, even success can feel hollow. Right intention is born from right view, the understanding that happiness doesn't come from possession or approval, but from alignment, when your actions mirror your values. Ask yourself, what does my heart long to contribute, not just consume? That question alone can change the trajectory of a life. Siddhartha's renunciation wasn't rebellion, it was precision. He didn't leave the palace because he hated comfort, he left because comfort had stopped answering his deepest question. He redirected his energy from indulgence to inquiry, from pleasing others to understanding truth. That's what right effort, samma vayama, really is, not frantic striving, but sustained, intelligent energy aimed toward awakening. You can feel this difference in daily life. When effort is misaligned, it drains you, you grind through the day, measuring worth in outcomes and likes. But when effort flows from clear intention, it nourishes you. Even small acts, meditating 10 minutes, writing 1 paragraph, helping a stranger, feel alive with meaning. The energy is the same, only the direction change. Buddhist psychology describes 4 kinds of effort. 1. Preventing unwholesome states from arising. 2. Abandoning those already arisen. 3. Cultivating wholesome states not yet born. 4. Maintaining those already flourishing. Every morning, your mind cycles through all 4. You wake with irritation, abandon. You recall gratitude, maintain. You resist gossip, prevent. You sit to meditate, cultivate. That simple awareness transforms routine into practice. The Western world teaches goal setting, Buddhism teaches purpose setting. A goal is what you achieve, a purpose is what you embody. One can fail at a goal and still live one's purpose. So instead of asking, what do I want to get? Ask, what do I want to give myself to? Because devotion, not ambition, is what steadies the mind. Here's a small exercise. Choose one thing, truly small, that reflects who you wish to become. Not 1,000 resolutions, just one. Meditate 10 minutes each morning. Write 1 truth each night. Walk in silence once a day. Then guard that act as sacred. Each repetition carves a groove in consciousness. That groove becomes character. Over time, right intention becomes a compass you no longer have to check. Your energy naturally flows toward what is wholesome, away from what is hollow. And in that quiet alignment, you begin to sense the Buddha's deeper teaching. That freedom isn't doing whatever you want, it's wanting only what frees you. 3. The middle way in self-care is an act of wisdom. No one can walk the path of awakening if both body and mind are exhausted. That's not a metaphor, it's biological truth. The Buddha himself discovered it the hard way. Before enlightenment, Siddhartha Gautama pushed his body to the edge of collapse, living on a single grain of rice. Holding his breath until his skin clung to his bones, believing that pain was the price of purity. But when he finally fainted by the river, he realized something profound. Suffering doesn't lead to liberation, understanding does. From that realization arose Majjhima Patipada, the middle way, the path between indulgence and self-mortification. In modern language, the middle way is balance, an intelligent compassion toward your own system. It means knowing when to rest without guilt and when to act without compulsion. In Buddhist psychology, this is sampajana, clear comprehension. Awareness that every state of body or mind is interdependent. The mind cannot be clear if the nervous system is on fire. Meditation cannot deepen in a malnourished body. Caring for yourself, then, is not vanity, it's maintenance of the vessel through which wisdom flows. Self-care in the Buddhist sense isn't scented candles and spa days. It's right relationship with your own energy. It begins with the body because the body is the first teacher. When you walk mindfully, feel the soul touch the ground. The breath align with each step. You are not escaping the world. You are re-entering it. The Buddha called this Kayanapassana, mindfulness of the body, one of the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Through it, you see that the body is not mine, but a process, breathing, pulsing, aging, renewing. To care for it is to honor impermanence itself. Think of self-care as 3 concentric circles: body, mind, and heart. Body care is straightforward: adequate sleep, nourishing food, 30 minutes of movement or stillness each day. Even a few conscious breaths recalibrate the nervous system. Science now confirms what monks observed millennia ago. Mind care is the hygiene of attention. It's choosing what you let in: news, conversations, screens. Each input seeds karma in consciousness. Curate wisely. Heart care is cultivating metta, loving kindness. It means speaking to yourself the way a teacher would to a sincere student: firm, kind, never cruel. When fatigue or failure appears, respond with warmth, not war. The middle way invites discipline without punishment. You can work hard, meditate deeply, love fiercely, yet remain gentle. Gentleness, in fact, is a higher strength, it's force under control. When you treat yourself with that level of respect, the mind settles naturally. You begin to notice that peace isn't something you achieve after doing enough. It's what emerges when you stop waging war on your own being. So dedicate at least 30 minutes a day to maintenance of your human instrument: walk, stretch, sit quietly, or simply breathe with full attention. Let that time be non-negotiable. As sacred as prayer. Over weeks the difference becomes tangible. Your thoughts sharpen. Reactions soften. Compassion widens. You're no longer surviving your body, you're inhabiting it. In the end, the Buddha's discovery was revolutionary yet simple. Enlightenment is impossible through abuse, whether of others or of oneself. To care for the body is to care for the mind. To steady the mind is to open the door to awakening. When the body rests in balance and the mind rests in awareness, wisdom no longer needs to be sought, it begins to speak through you. 4. Metta, the strength of a gentle heart. It's strange, isn't it? We can forgive others for almost anything, yet speak to ourselves in ways we would never use on another human being. We call ourselves lazy, unworthy, broken, as if harshness were a form of discipline. But the Buddha taught something radically different. True transformation begins not with judgment, but with kindness. The Pali word for loving kindness is metta, and it doesn't mean sentimental affection. It's an active, deliberate training of the heart. Metta asks, can I wish myself well without condition? Not because I've earned it, but because I exist. This is the foundation of all compassion. Because until you can meet your own suffering with gentleness, every act of caring for others will be incomplete. You can't pour from a cracked vessel. Buddhist psychology makes an important distinction between self-centeredness and self-compassion. The first is grasping, feeding the ego's hunger for validation. The second is understanding, recognizing that your pain is part of the human story. not a personal defect. When you practice self-compassion, you don't make excuses, you make space. Space to breathe, to begin again, to be human without shame. Imagine speaking to yourself as you would to a dear friend who's struggling. If she failed, you wouldn't say, "You're worthless." You'd say, "That hurt." But you'll learn, why should your own heart deserve less mercy? Every time you soften toward yourself, you weaken the old karmic habit of self-criticism. That habit, the constant inner scolding, is one of the subtlest forms of suffering. It keeps the mind tight and defensive, always proving, never resting. The Buddha compared anger and self-hatred to holding a burning coal, waiting to throw it at someone. Who gets burned first? We do. When you learn to drop that coal, to let it fall even once, something extraordinary happens, not weakness, but clarity. The mind becomes lighter, more stable, capable of true discernment. Self-compassion is not indulgence, it's intelligence. In the traditional metta bhavana meditation, practitioners begin by offering phrases of goodwill to themselves before extending them outward. May I be safe. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. Only when the heart is steady and that wish does the circle widen, to loved ones, strangers, and even enemies. The order matters. The self-first sequence is not selfish, it's strategic. A heart at war with itself cannot sustain peace for others. Self-compassion also connects deeply with karuna, compassion for suffering itself. The Buddha taught that suffering is universal, dukkha belongs to no one. When you remember that, failure loses its sting. You're no longer isolated in shame, you're participating in humanity's shared lesson. Each mistake becomes part of your awakening curriculum. If today you're tired, give yourself permission to rest without labeling it laziness. Rest is a form of respect, an acknowledgement that your body and mind are partners on the path. If you've failed, don't rush to erase it, reflect with patience. Ask, what was I trying to protect? Or, what can this teach me about craving or fear? Compassion transforms even regret into wisdom. Over time, self-compassion ripens into courage. You become less reactive, less afraid of imperfection. You stop needing to be flawless because you're fluent in forgiveness. And paradoxically, this softness makes you stronger, the kind of strength that doesn't depend on armor. When you look deeply, metta is not a feeling but a stance toward life. It's how you walk through the world when you've stopped punishing yourself for being human. The truly compassionate person is not weak, they are the only one strong enough to remain open after being hurt. So remember, the practice is simple but radical. Replace inner punishment with inner friendship. Talk to yourself as you would to a child learning to walk, with patience, curiosity, and trust. Every stumble is still a step, and each act of self-kindness plants the seed of a heart so steady that when the winds of life arrive, it doesn't break, it simply bends and blooms again. 5. Flow and the mindful joy of action. Have you ever lost track of time while doing something you love, painting, writing, tending a garden, or simply fixing something with your hands, and suddenly realized hours had passed in silence? That effortless absorption, that sense of being fully alive and undivided, is what modern psychology calls flow. But centuries before anyone coined that term, the Buddha had already pointed to the same experience in his teachings on sati, mindfulness, and ekaggata. One-pointedness of mind. He called it living in the present field of awareness, or the mindfulness of the moment. In that state, there's no self-conscious observer and no pressure to perform. The painter disappears into the painting. The musician becomes the melody. The gardener moves with the rhythm of the soil. Action flows through you, but it doesn't come from you. The boundaries between doer and doing dissolve. In Buddhist language, this is the union of samadhi and mindfulness, concentration that is effortless because attention has become love. When the Buddha spoke of right livelihood and right action in the Noble Eightfold Path, he wasn't referring only to morality or profession. He was pointing toward a way of being where work itself becomes meditation. The key isn't what you do, it's the quality of mind you bring to it. Folding laundry with awareness can be more transformative than chasing success in a job you secretly despise. The sacred hides inside the ordinary, it reveals itself when you're fully present. To love what you do is not hedonism, it's alignment. In Buddhist psychology, joy, pity, and happiness, sukha, are considered factors of enlightenment. They're not rewards at the end of practice. they're signs you're on the right path. When joy arises naturally, unforced, it means craving has loosened its grip. You're no longer chasing pleasure to escape pain. You're simply engaged in the unfolding of life as it is. Think of how a monk sweeps a temple floor. The broom moves, the dust rises, the sun filters through, each motion complete in itself. There's no goal beyond this moment. That's Zen in action, though the Buddha taught it long before Zen existed as a word. It's meditation without the cushion, stillness in motion. This is why doing what you love, sincerely, attentively, is far from indulgence. It's maintenance for the soul. The mind, constantly strained by striving and comparison, needs spaces of restoration where nothing has to be achieved. In that restorative space, awareness returns to its natural rhythm, open, gentle, alert. Neuroscience now supports this ancient truth. When the mind is in flow, activity in the prefrontal cortex quiets down, the inner critic switches off, creativity blooms, and stress hormones drop. Modern labs confirm what the Buddha observed under the Bodhi tree. A calm mind performs best when it stops clinging to control. To practice this, you don't need to quit your job or move to a monastery. You just need to choose at least one act each day that you do purely for love. It could be making tea, sketching, singing softly, cooking a meal with full attention. The moment your mind stops chasing outcomes and returns to enjoyment, you've stepped into the flow of Dharma, truth manifesting through ordinary life. And here's the deeper insight. When you act from joy, your work stops being about self-expression and becomes an expression of life itself. The I doing fades, only the doing remains. That is non-self in real time, anatta made visible through music, paint, or motion. The heart rests because it's no longer divided between me and what I'm doing. So when you feel guilty for taking time to play, remember, play is not a distraction from the path. It is the path, when done with awareness. Joy is not the opposite of discipline, it's what keeps discipline alive. The Buddha once said that a mind steeped in joy is like a well-oiled wheel, it moves smoothly and quietly. Do what you love, not to escape the world, but to rejoin it more fully. Every moment of genuine enjoyment reteaches the mind how to dwell in presence. In those moments, there's no need to force enlightenment, it's already happening, brushstroke by brushstroke, note by note, breath by breath. 6. Equanimity and the wisdom of your own season. A young monk once asked the Buddha, "Why do I always feel inferior to others?" The Buddha pointed to a lotus pond and said, "In this pond, each flower blooms in its own season." That image carries a truth so subtle. Most of us miss it entirely. Comparison is not insight, it's amnesia. When we compare, we forget our own season. From childhood, we're trained to measure everything: grades, beauty, wealth, even spirituality. We rank our worth against other people's timelines, as if life were a race with a single finish line. But the Buddha's teaching of upekkha, equanimity, invites a different way of seeing. It reminds us that no two lives unfold under identical causes and conditions, paticca samuppada. The karma that ripened into your present moment is not the same as anyone else's. Expecting identical outcomes is like blaming a rose for not smelling like jasmine. Comparison arises from tanha, craving, the subtle itch of wanting to be more, better, farther ahead. It dresses itself up as ambition but secretly feeds suffering. Every "why am I not like them?" tightens the grip of dukkha. Because it measures reality against an illusion. You never compare fact to fact, you compare your inside to someone else's highlight reel. In Buddhist psychology, this is called the conceit of identity, mana. The belief that there is a solid I, who can be above or below another I. Once you see that both selves are impermanent processes, the whole hierarchy collapses into compassion. The antidote isn't apathy, it's awareness. When envy surfaces, don't suppress it, study it. Ask, what need in me feels unseen right now? Usually, comparison points toward an unacknowledged longing for recognition, connection, or peace. Meeting that longing directly with kindness transforms jealousy into understanding. In that moment, you stop looking outward and start listening inward. Gratitude is the everyday form of equanimity. Each night, before you sleep, write down 3 things you're grateful for, not as homework, but as recalibration. It could be as small as a breath that came easily, a meal you enjoyed, or a quiet minute without anxiety. Over time, gratitude rewires the mind from scarcity to sufficiency. The Buddha said, "Contentment is the greatest wealth." When you practice gratitude, you begin to notice that contentment doesn't depend on circumstances, it grows from clarity. Imagine your mind as that lotus pond. Some flowers are still buds. Others have already withered. A few are in perfect bloom. You don't rush the buds open, you simply water them. That's what gratitude does. It waters what's here instead of wishing for what's not. In neuroscience terms, this strengthens neural pathways of appreciation rather than comparison. In Dharma terms, it's the cultivation of mudita, sympathetic joy, the ability to feel happiness for others without losing peace in yourself. To practice, start with a simple sequence whenever you catch yourself comparing. Pause. Breathe. Bless. Keycap 1. Pause. Notice the tightening in your chest or stomach, the body's signal that craving has arisen. Keycap 2. Breathe. Take one conscious inhale and exhale, grounding attention back in the present. Keycap 3. Bless. Silently wish well to the person you're comparing yourself to. May you be happy. May I be free. That short circuit rewires envy into empathy. Over time, this practice changes how you see success altogether. You begin to understand that life is not a competition but a collaboration of unfolding causes. Each person you meet is living a karmic equation as intricate as your own. Some seasons are for blooming, others for rooting, others for rest. When you stop demanding that your growth match anyone else's, you finally allow wisdom to mature at its natural pace. The Buddha's lotus pond isn't a metaphor about passivity, it's a mirror of reality. Every bloom, by simply being itself, completes the pond. You too are part of that harmony. When you honor your own rhythm, comparison fades, gratitude expands, and peace quietly takes its place. 7. Values as practice. Turning wisdom into daily alignment. Values are not slogans you hang on a wall. They're the quiet rules your life actually obeys. If you ever feel scattered, anxious, or easily swayed by other people's opinions, it's usually not because you lack discipline, it's because your compass isn't calibrated. In Buddhist terms, values are how right view becomes visible in behavior, how intention hardens into the shape of a day. When your actions match what you truly honor, the mind rests. When they don't, agitation appears. That friction is your karma nudging you back into alignment. The Buddha's own life is the classic case study. He didn't reject a throne because gold was evil. He recognized that luxury could not answer the question that mattered most. He chose truth over comfort, liberation over reputation. That is what it means to live by values, not grand gestures, but consistent preference for what frees the heart over what flatters the ego. In Pali, we could name 3 pillars that make values operational: sila, ethical conduct; sata, trained heart-mind; and panya, wisdom. When these are coordinated, choices get simple, not easy, but simple. A practical starting point is radical clarity. Write 3 core values you refuse to trade, for example, stillness, honesty, gratitude. Choose words you can practice, not words that merely sound noble. Success is vague, service is actionable. Happiness drifts, non-harming directs. Then, translate each value into behaviors you can count. Stillness, right pointing arrow, 10 minutes of silent sitting at dawn. 1 slow meal without screens. 1 evening walk in quiet. Honesty, right pointing arrow, say, I don't know, when you don't. No white lies to avoid discomfort. Correct 1 small exaggeration each day. Gratitude, right pointing arrow, 3 lines of thanks each night. 1 sincere appreciation spoken to a person daily. Notice 1 ordinary miracle: hot water, fresh air, a pain-free breath. This is how values stop being abstractions. You give them time on your calendar and room in your mouth. Buddhist psychology offers a clean decision filter through the 4 right efforts. Before acting, ask: 1. Will this choice prevent unwholesome states, greed, ill will, delusion, from arising? 2. Will it abandon those already present? 3. Will it cultivate wholesome states, generosity, kindness, clarity? 4. Will it safeguard them once present? Run your options through that lens and watch indecision shrink. Values cease to be theories, they become criteria. Another useful map is the 3 poisons versus the 3 medicines. Lobha, grasping, is countered by generosity. Dosa, aversion, by kindness. Moha, delusion, by clarity. If a decision increases grasping, harshness, or confusion, it's off value, even if it promises short-term gain. Alignment sometimes looks like loss from the outside. Inside, it feels like oxygen. You'll also meet the quiet saboteur of values, cognitive dissonance, the body's tension when you speak one truth and live another. Dharma practice treats that tension not as shame, but as data. Pause, breathe into the belly, and ask, which value is being threatened right now? Often it's safety, belonging, or status. Name the fear, bow to it, and then choose the smallest action that serves your stated value. Tiny, repeated integrity rewires identity far more reliably than rare heroic efforts. Remember that values mature by seasons. In some seasons, Kanti, patient endurance, is central. In others, Virya, energy, must lead. The paramis, generosity, virtue, renunciation, wisdom, energy, patience, truthfulness, resolve, loving kindness, equanimity, are not abstract virtues. They're value families you train moment by moment. Tell the truth when it costs you a little. Yield the last word when kindness matters more than being right. Sit 5 minutes longer when restlessness whispers, enough. Each small fidelity deposits interest in the account of character. To keep alignment alive, build a weekly values review, 15 honest minutes. Same time each week. Where did I act on my values? Name one scene. Feel it in the body. Where did I betray them? State it plainly, without drama. What is one micro adjustment for the coming week? Make it laughably small. Who or what helped me stay aligned? Offer silent gratitude. Send one note of thanks. Link this to your 3 core values at the top of the page so the loop closes. Stated right pointing arrow, lived right pointing arrow, reviewed right pointing arrow, refined. Finally, keep one question near at hand before important choices. Does this reflect my values? Ask it aloud. The throat knows when you lie. Alignment is somatic. The breath deepens. The jaw softens. The chest opens when you choose in line with your compass. Misalignment produces the opposite, shallow breath, tight jaw, a quick mind. Let the body vote. Living your values is not moral theater, it's nervous system hygiene and karmic clarity. It simplifies life because many temptations stop being real options. You don't need every door when you know your path. And the paradox is beautiful. The narrower your fidelity, the wider your freedom. When your day consistently reflects what you truly honor, the mind grows quiet, decisions get cleaner, and peace stops being a visitor. It becomes the way you walk. The world doesn't need another perfect version of you. It needs the version that's awake, real, kind, and fully present. Start today, not with grand resolutions, but with gentle revolutions. 5 minutes of honest journaling, a conversation with your own heart. 6 mindful breaths, the kind that remind you you're still here. 1 simple act of kindness, even if it's only for yourself. Every small step you take inward is a vast step toward freedom. Because peace doesn't descend from the heavens, it rises quietly from within you. 1 mindful moment at a time. As the Buddha said, peace comes from within, do not seek it without. So let this be your practice, not to escape the world, but to illuminate it from where you stand. And before we part, let us take a single breath together, for those who cannot. For every being enduring storms, earthquakes, and floods. For the children who sleep to the sound of war. For the hearts that tremble in loss, and the hands that rebuild from ashes. May the boundless compassion of the Buddha reach them. May they find safety, shelter, and the quiet strength to rise again. And may our own awakening become a light that eases even a fragment of their suffering. If this message resonated with you, help the circle widen, share it, comment, or simply live it. Each mindful act, however small, plants a seed of collective peace. Now I'd love to hear from you. Sparkles, what's one small practice that brings you back to yourself when the world feels heavy? Share it below. Your insight might be exactly what someone else needs today. Remember, awakening doesn't happen far away. It begins right here, in your breath, your kindness, and your willingness to start again. This is Dharma Veins, where awareness becomes action, and compassion becomes a way of life.